chase off.
Ow.
Yo.
It keeps focusing on his face.
Does it?
Yeah.
I think that.
Thanks, Grass.
How about that?
That's a little better.
Is that better?
Just
Can you
turn
see
off
it?
the filter.
Yeah, that, like right there is.
I don't know what this is.
Zoom.
Oh.
So getting the covers off are a little temperamental. Different styles will actually not come off without this, with the chain brake turned off. Sometimes you have to have them on. So kind of fiddle with it. But right now, this should be pretty easy to pop off for us. When you're taking parts off a chainsaw, make sure and have somewhere designated that's going to be clean for you, that's not going to get lost and roll down the mountain.
And also, like when you take the bar nuts off, make sure you like put them in the cap or something. Like flip the cap over and put them in the cap in this piece, so that they don't get lost in the dirt or something. Because I've seen that happen a few times.
So, air filter, screws on, screws off. It even has a little lock on there. There it goes. So it even has a little lock, unlock thing on there.
Most of the saws that we use have a square flat filter. They have a nut. They just have a screw on it. Like you use a regular screwdriver to pull it off.
Yeah.
This end.
Yeah, this is going to be probably more of a different filter than you're going to see on most saws. And then spark plug is located in here. You can get it off the wiring and just pop it off. You can see your spark plugs there. You can also use your tool. This is pretty much everything as far as a tool that you need on a chainsaw to take your spark plug out. Then you can take it out, you can look at it. Like I said, most of the time it's just easier once you have it out to not mess with it and to replace it. Carburetor, your muffler's up here, the hot part. Put a cover back on it so I can show you the sprockets and stuff. So when you're doing this is probably the most important part, that you're really just careful with the chain, just knowing where you're moving your hands. Obviously you have your gloves on, so you're not worried about cutting your hands.
Sir O'Reilly, what's the tool you're using just to lock it?
Out there we just call it a chainsaw tool.
Or a scrunch.
Scratch?
For
Scrunch.
screwdriver wrench.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of these will not come off all the way, the bar nuts. Some of them stay on the case itself, which are nice because then you're not losing them.
That's usually, that plate right there is usually I put the nuts on when I take it apart, so I don't lose them in the dirt.
That's fine.
That white plate that he's pulling off right now.
So again, chainsaw used every day, not going to be clean for you. I didn't want to make it seem like I'm cleaner than I'm not. So that's definitely a dirty chainsaw. It needs maintenance. It did have a full tune-up this year that I did on it. But we'll get into how we're adjusting the chain tension. It's probably the most common issue is that the chain is not, it's either too loose or too tight. So the book says 1/8 of an inch we want. That's a little bit, to stick a nickel in it is what the tree guys say.
We bring it in.
So you're pulling it back and you're not holding it, you want it to snap. So pulling it back, see how much room's in there? That's a lot. So we need to tighten our chain. And here's the chain tension sprocket. And it's dirty, but there's a little groove in our bar. And the little groove are the bar nut tensioners and the bar nuts. And how we achieve loosening or tensioning the bar is pretty straightforward, as long as I can get it to stay there. But there's a little screw in there, and if we loosen it, or to the left, loosey-goosey right, then it's going to move.
So there's basically a pin in there that slides when you turn that screw. There's a pin that holds the bar, that plugs into the bar, and when you turn that screw, either pushes the bar out or pulls it in.
So this little pin right here is coming in towards the sprocket. So that's loosening it, and then you're applying the tension by moving this out, which this pin is in this hole, keep in mind. So it's putting tension between these two bar nuts and the sprocket, or the tensioner. So what I'll do,
And then this piece right here, the ceiling bar right here, is when your chain comes off, it stops it from slapping you.
and it's
Essentially,
slapped me so many times that it's now bent to shit, and now I get slapped. However,
that's the thing, that, like, you'll mess up the guides on your chain, the piece, the guides that go into the bar itself, these pieces, these little teeth right here, it'll burr them up, and you have to sit there and file them down after you do that, because it burrs them up pretty good for it to fit back in the guide and roll smoothly.
so in this
Okay.
portion of the class, it's asking you to get to the needle bearing. The needle bearing is kind of the most hated part in chainsaw maintenance, because you have to take the C-clip off. They call it the C-clip. I've heard it called different things of a C-clip. However, for being PC, we'll just call it a C-clip.
What's
You
the
can
not PC?
you can the Christ clip. I've heard it called. Heard it also referred to parts of the female anatomy. They call it that because once you get it off, it literally flies off. So there's not really the book way to do it is to use the end of your tool to push it off, and then to while covering it. I'm not exactly sure the technique, but I just
Is that one of the pieces that gets lost a lot?
yeah, and that's why they call it the C-clip. So essentially, it's just an open-ended washer, but there's nothing so scary about it that it's like, don't do it. Like, it just took some finesse, basically.
Oh, that. Yeah, that would.
Parts of your sprocket are now coming off. Very important to keep track of.
Sorry.
And this is your needle bearing. You can see that mine is bone dry. It's not good. There's needle bearing grease that we now want to put on there. We're gonna grease it. Put it back on.
Is there like a specific grease you put on there, or is it?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very specific. But again, I haven't done this in probably a month or two, so I'm not surprised to see that that's dry. That's going to be like really just this little plastic part of your chainsaw is not talked about. Again, this is the needle bearing. This causes a lot of issues if it's not properly greased, which it's surprisingly, or not surprisingly in this case, not. So that's your sprocket. Once you get your sprocket on there, you're going to want to look for wear and tear on it. It should have these grooves in there, but it shouldn't have holes in them, if that makes sense. So see how they're grooved on each end here, right in the middle? It's supposed to be that way, but not like down to where it's worn out, if that makes sense. So we'll put our seat clip back on there after we've greased it, right? Because we just did that. So that's, I guess that's where I forgot. It's more helpful to use it when you're putting it back on. The open end of your scratch, and you just clipped it back on. So this is the most tricky part, putting your thing back on correctly.
Show them which way the chain goes. Because
Yes.
it's really easy to reverse your chain without even realizing it.
So we're cutting the wood, and this chain is moving this way. I must have hit something with this chain because my teeth are screwed up. So the chain moving this way, sprocket driving the chain this way, over and forward, and then coming back towards you on the bottom. The biggest place you want to avoid contact when cutting is right here, and that's what will cause the kickback. It'll cause this kind of motion because it's not meant to take the cutting torque there. It's
Could you
meant
do
to
that
put
a
it
little
here.
lower? I can see on the camera.
There you go. Is that better?
Yeah, right there. Just,
Bad zone. Okay,
The
zone.
top, the top eighth of the bar.
so any lower, not a good zone.
The top eighth of the bar you don't want because it'll make it roll back and kick back on you.
Okay.
So, putting our bar back on, we're going to put it back into the sprocket. I haven't adjusted it too much, so the pin did go back in the bar, which is what we're looking for. A lot of the time right now, I'll have to be adjusting this to and fro, or in and out, to find this pin. For instance, if I'm putting this back on and it's just not quite lining up like I want it to, I'll have to move it and then line it back right in there. So tightening it is pretty straightforward. With the bar nut still off, we're gonna achieve that nickel size gap, or dime size rather. So I've just tightened it. I'm gonna look how much tension I have. It's getting pretty good, but I could use a little bit more. Keep in mind that they do get a little bit loose after you put this all back together.
So you want to tighten it a little extra.
A little bit extra, you know. So like exactly a dime, not like less than that. Like you want,
Dime or a nickel?
it's a dime.
It wants to. You want to end up at a
Sorry, we're getting rid
end up
of
at a nickel.
we're getting rid of the penny. Let's keep the dime.
I was about to say, I was like, pennies, you know?
So somewhere in there. So I'm gonna put the cover back on after I've cleaned everything right. And this is the part where Sean was talking about, is putting, and if you're gonna do this part, please wear a glove. But you're putting tension on the bar and you're bringing it up to the chainsaw. For instance, if I just put it on without putting tension on my bar, especially on longer bars on more powerful chainsaws, like if it was all the way down here, it's putting the wrong amount of tension in the wrong amount of places.
So you're pulling it up that way, right? Okay.
So I'm pulling it towards the handle.
Okay.
And there's tricks to it, like what Sean was saying, how to put your leg around here or make it tension here. But basically, you put the tension on the bar, put your bar nuts back on there.
Will you feel it when you hold it? Like you'll feel the tension?
You can,
All right.
and you can see that little bit of movement right there.
Okay.
So you want it up.
Oh, okay.
There's different preference on how tight these should be by the book, but now's a good time before I get them all the way tight to check again my tension, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, loosen it back up, and then we can show them just the nuts.
Okay.
So now the bar is just sitting normal now. So what I'm talking about is you can put it on a tree log, and then you just push that, and that brings that bar up. That way you're by yourself. You're not trying to fight a long bar and hold this in place.
Instead of holding it, you can do that.
And then you just snug it up, and you should have your tension.
Oh.
That's, especially when you're dealing with 28-inch plus size bars, that's about the only way you can really do it by yourself. Little ones like he was doing it at first, that's, you know, fairly easy to do.
Just make sure they're tight when you put them back on there, because they will rattle off, and then you're looking for them, and it's causing a bunch of problems.
And also when you take the nuts off, do all of that, make sure you put them somewhere where nobody will sit on them or kick them, because once they're lost, that's it, you're done.
So, other than that, that covers most of the parts. I think that covers most of the book parts, other than the fuel and the oil. You got your oil up front, reservoir. Steel are great saws, but if there's one thing to complain about, it's these. A lot of the time what'll happen, I'll just make myself extra dirty to save you guys the hassle of ever having to do this in the future. What'll happen is these things essentially will get over twisted like that. I couldn't really see it. But see how there's a gap in here now? That's a pretty common thing, and then you can't screw it back in once there's a gap in there. Just twist it again to where there isn't a gap, and that way you'll be able to line them up correctly and get them back in. Also, steel makes a nice convenient thing that says it's closed.
Yeah.
That most of the time works.
Now this is the part where all the geysers, and we call them geysers, happen.
Yep, the vapor lock is in there, and you could hear that little bit of decompression when I took that off. A lot of the time that can be a lot more, and scary, obviously, around fire. So that's where you fill up your fuel, 50-to-1 ratio, and that covers most of it. You can get much more in-depth, and I'd recommend looking at a diagram of what's actually in the motor head of a chainsaw. There's like a billion parts in there, and that's why I'm not going to take it all the way apart.
How much was a chainsaw like when you bought it?
This is they call it a semi-professional saw, just because it's not balls to the wall power, but it does enough for me. I like it because it's powerful yet light, and I like light saws. They're light at the end of your day. You do this for 14 hours a day, and you're fucking toast.
And how much was it? That one?
This one's like, I think retails for like $700.
Okay.
Yeah, the new, like the 500Is, the fuel injection, the cheapest one is about $1,200, $1,300. And that is a tiny little bar. It